Hello and welcome to our WALKinar. It's a virtual intro to Vision Zero and how to be a sighted ally to the visually impaired community as well. I am Jana Victor, a Commute Smart Raleigh team member with the City of Raleigh, and I'd like to thank you all for being here. We here at Commute Smart Raleigh, we provide advice and assistance to increase the use of all the various transportation options, such as riding the bus, carpooling, van pooling, teleworking, creative work schedules, even parking cash out, biking, and of course, walking to save people money. We improve commuter health. We reduce greenhouse gas emissions in doing so, and just more efficiently use our transportation infrastructure. So with it being October, we lovingly call it Walktober, and we hope everybody's just as excited as I am about our speakers today and to talk about what is being done and what we can do to be better pedestrians and get around safely. But first, I wanted to pass it on to my coworker, Mason.
Thank you, Jana. I'm Mason Shamley, the member of the Commute Smart Raleigh team. Thank you all for being here. So for some housekeeping notes, we plan on hosting a Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. So after both presenters have spoke, feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat as we move along and move forward with our day. We will get to them, like I said, after both speakers have presented. Some other housekeeping notes just to be aware of is please remain on mute and to have your video camera off, just so that way we're managing our bandwidth on the Zoom channel and we don't have any technical difficulties along that, as well as to minimize distractions for both of our presenters. And then if you have any other technical questions or difficulties, feel free to message either myself or Jana or a member of our technical team. They'll have Go Triangle under their video title, and we'll be able to help get those issues resolved. First up, we have Sean Driscoll, the city's first ever Vision Zero program manager. This program works on lowering fatal and serious pedestrian injuries. Sean has previously worked on a variety of City of Raleigh projects as a professional engineer, including the Wake Bus Rapid Transit, as well as streetscape and road improvements. He comes from all around, having worked in Alaska, Oklahoma, and Alabama before calling Raleigh home. So Sean, thank you for being here, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Mason. Appreciate that. It was a good intro. I've been with the city about 4 years now. Previously, I was in roadway design and construction as a senior engineer. Now I'm within the transportation department as the Vision Zero program manager. So for this presentation, I have a number of slides for you, but we'll do an intro and background to our new Vision Zero program, some of the accomplishments we've completed this far, goals we have moving forward, projects we're developing, some of the projects we're working on now in construction, and then future projects. Some of the branding you see here is from other Vision Zero communities across the country. And we hope to have a similar branding for ours as we move forward with the development of our Vision Zero website, which I'll talk about a little bit more. You may recognize this one down here. This is Charlotte's. So the development of our Vision Zero program, previously referred to as the Raleigh Safety Program, the city hired VHB.
I'm sorry, real quick. I don't know if you have the presentation open yet, but we are unable to see the screen.
There we go. Okay, so this is some of the branding I was referring to that other municipalities have on their Vision Zero websites that the City of Raleigh be moving forward with as we develop our website and homepage. This one right here is the one that Charlotte has. We worked with Andrea Berry a little bit as well. So the Vision Zero program, now previously referred to as the Raleigh Safety Program, the City of Raleigh hired our consultant VHB to complete a report that evaluated the promising safety practices and safety planning approaches. It included a review of the best practices of many Vision Zero programs around the country, including peer cities, which interviews were conducted with Denver, Minneapolis, and Philadelphia. Our Vision Zero program consists of these individuals. Jed Niffenegger is my supervisor as the city traffic engineer. I'm the Vision Zero program manager. James Sedano is a transportation supervisor within our Vision Zero program. Dustin Bryce assists us in managing all the street lights. And then we have a vacant transportation safety engineer position that's likely to be advertised today and closing here in the next few weeks. Under the Vision Zero program, we're responsible for all the school zones and school area management. It's 110 public schools, but we deal with about 150 schools total, private, magnet, charter. We also manage the Safe Light program, which includes red light cameras at 27 intersections, general safety improvements like spot safety and spot mobility projects that we develop with our partners at NCDOT, all the street lights for the entire city, and then further Vision Zero program development, which I'll talk a little bit more regarding the comprehensive safety action plan in a sec. So a little bit about the background. Raleigh's average annual motor vehicle involved roadway fatality from 2016 to 2020 was about 27 a year. The fatality rate per 100,000 is 5.75, and we'd like to bring that to preferably 0, but definitely under 1. And then percent of the population in underserved community census tracts is 18.34. That's what these are shown here as the historically disadvantaged communities, also referred to here as the transportation disadvantaged communities. This is a heat map that was developed showing where all the fatalities and serious injuries were. So you can see some of the lack of infrastructure, probably part of the reason why there's some injuries here. These next two maps, this one right here, the blue one, shows all the severe and fatal crashes total, as well as the population index, so you can, or population density, so you can see where some of these are happening. This purple map shows where all the bike and ped severe and fatals were. Quite a few right here, which seems to directly correlate with households that hold 0 vehicles. So we're looking to make improvements through all of Raleigh, but as a Vision Zero program, focus on these areas I've identified here. Things we've completed thus far is we have advertised that traffic safety engineer position I mentioned. We're moving forward with implementation on the downtown pedestrian improvement project, phase 1, which I'll talk about a little bit more. City of Raleigh submitted a SS4A comprehensive safety action plan grant application on September 15th. So this is a $1 million request at an 80-20 match. We received a $50,000 pledge from our partners at NCDOT to help with this match. The city hired Kittleson to assist us in drafting the application and providing supporting documentation like the maps tables. Those maps I just showed you right there. Awarded applicants will be notified early next year. So we're hoping to get that. We've been slowly updating all the school zone area signage throughout a number of different schools over the past year plus. Submitting spot safety improvement projects through NCDOT. These are a couple of locations that we're working on now. And also working here internally with our traffic calming department to develop some traffic calming projects at some of the schools, 2 being Wildwood Forest and Hillburn Academy. So goals moving forward is the development of the Vision Zero task force, continuing to review other Vision Zero websites, taking all the positives we like from those to develop our own, and then also reviewing all the individuals that are on the task force for our peer cities to try to create our own, backfill that engineering vacancy, further developing and further evaluating our RFB policy, and the NCDOT policy will follow, make it a little more open for school zones and vulnerable users. So starting the implementation of the downtown safety improvement project that includes 25 mph for all streets, no ride on reds, channelization reductions, which I'll show some maps of where that's going to be located. And then phase 2, which we're starting preliminary design on now, is looking at locations for RFBs and HOCs and further evaluating feasibility. As I mentioned, developing a Vision Zero website, and then preferably getting that grant award for the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, which will take 18 to 24 months to draft. And then preferably the goal is to apply for implementation funding up to $30 million in September 2024 upon completion of that grant. So touching on some of the downtown safety improvement projects that we're doing, as I mentioned, the signal changes, channelization changes, no ride on reds. This is the project limits. So everywhere within this yellow proposed area, we'll have LPIs, all the intersections, 25 miles per hour, channelizations. So instead of duals, it's just singles. I believe that was at 7 different intersections. This is all the phase 1 that's being completed. Leading pedestrian intervals allow the pedestrian to enter the intersection before the light turns green to provide more visibility. These are already at a number of intersections downtown, but we will be implementing them within the entire project limits that I just showed. Speed limit reductions to 25, and this graphic shows the results in fatality and how much it is reduced by lowering speed limits. This is an example of a channelization reduction. The say the blue car here making the left, the gray car creates a blind spot for any pedestrians possibly crossing. So to reduce any visibility issues, reducing channelization like this helps a lot. There are a couple areas where volumes are so high we had to remain, but many of them are reduced. And then also implementing no ride on reds at all intersections as well, which will decrease some efficiency, but will significantly increase safety for pedestrians downtown. So we're currently working on the implementation of all of those improvements right now, and looking to be completed with that toward the end of the year. Phase 2 will further look at HAWKs and RFBs at many mid-block crossings. These are the proposed areas that we're evaluating further. So also include curb extensions to reduce crosswalk, the distance of the crosswalk to shorten it up for pedestrians. This could include some concrete bump outs like you see here, or something even as simple as flexible delineators and pavement markings. This is an example of what a HAWK looks like. This is the one on Hillsborough across from the YMCA. So it's actuated. As you press the button, it starts turning red to allow the pedestrian to cross the road. So it's a signalized pedestrian crosswalk. And then we'll also be updating many of the pavement markings at the intersections to high vis. Many of those locations have since faded and are currently standard crosswalks. So we'll be making those improvements as well. So that was my presentation. I wanted to leave ample time for questions here at the end. I know I went through it a little bit quickly, but that's what I have for now, and I'll be happy to answer anything upon completion of the next presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sean. There was a lot of information in there, very informative. And yeah, as a reminder, we're going to get to the questions in the end, so you can put them in the chat as we go. And before we get to our next speakers, I do want to take a quick 2-minute break to go over some general safety tips in one of our fun videos that we have. It's a talk about the walk as part of our Commute Smarter, Not Harder web series. So let me go ahead and share that video with you guys to enjoy.
Commute Smarter, Not Harder, presented by Commute Smart Raleigh. Today we will talk about the walk. There are many ways to get to your workplace, but if you live about 2 miles or less from your job, have you considered a pedestrian commute? Even though walking to work is often overlooked, nearly every commute starts with a walk, whether it is to the bus stop or even to your car in front of your house. Keep that momentum going if you're able, and consider all of the benefits it comes with. Walking is free. It can help you stay in shape. Walking lowers stress levels and provides some more me time. Walking is much more environmentally friendly than a lot of other commute options. Of course, we want you to stay safe during your walk, so please keep the following tips in mind. Wear bright colors or reflective gear, especially in the winter months when it gets dark earlier. Always cross at intersections or crosswalks, and even if it is your turn, look before crossing and watch for turning cars. Make eye contact with any drivers before crossing to make sure they see you. Obey any and all traffic signals. If there is no sidewalk, walk as far off the roadway as possible and walk against traffic so you can see the cars heading your way. Avoid crossing between parked cars so you don't surprise a driver. Don't talk or look at your cell phone or wear earphones when crossing the street so that you are alert. Pedestrians do not always have the right of way, and drivers are not always as alert as we want them to be, so please obey the rules and follow our tips to stay safe for your healthy and cost-free walking commute. And lastly, be prepared and wear comfortable shoes. You can bring a change of clothes for when you arrive to work. If you have any further questions on how to safely enjoy a walking commute or any other way to get to work, please contact us at commute@raleighnc.gov.
Awesome. Thank you, Jana, for that very informative video. So we're going to move on to our next presentation from Sandy and John DeLuca. So Sandy DeLuca is a retired teacher, blind and visually impaired students, and a resident of Raleigh for over 40 years. Legally blind since birth, she currently works part-time as a proofreader for Braille versions of state tests and is active with many civic organizations. John DeLuca is retired after 30 years of service in the North Carolina state government and a variety of legal and administrative roles. Legally blind since birth and totally blind since age 8, John has lived in Raleigh for the last 40 years and is also active in a number of civic organizations. So thank you both for joining, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. We're delighted to be with you all today, and we're delighted that each of you who is on with us. We wanted to give you a sense of some of the challenges and some of the assistance out there enabling blind and visually impaired folks to be pedestrians and ideally better pedestrians and more frequent pedestrians. When we got on the WALKinar this morning, Sandy was amused to see us listed as community activists because she whispered to me that she said, "John, you haven't been active since 2013." And I think that's a slight exaggeration. I wanted to say just an additional word about who I am. We're going to be passing the baton, i.e. iPhone, back and forth. I came to Raleigh when I was 6 to attend the Governor Moorhead School, which is the state school for blind and visually impaired people. And so even though I have lived here the last 40 years, I have spent a lot more time in Raleigh than that. And I have walked these, many of these streets for many years. Sandy?
Okay. You have the information about my teaching. I taught at the Governor Moorhead School, and as was mentioned, I am legally blind. I have no vision in one eye and a little bit in the other. I was born 3 months premature, and that was the cause of that. I went to public school, regular public school in Gastonia, North Carolina, and so have since then, of course, moved here and have been here close to 40 years. So we would like to give you some information and about the challenges that you have being visually impaired.
Earlier in the session, the benefits, generally speaking, were given for walking, for being a pedestrian. And it, I think, almost goes without saying that those same benefits relate to blind and visually impaired people, the physical fitness aspect, the mental and emotional well-being aspect, and as much as, if not even more than for sighted people. For example, we do a lot of what we refer to as destination walking, walking with a specific purpose, as opposed to only the fitness or emotional health aspects. We wanted to note that you are likely to encounter blind and visually impaired folks in numbers in Raleigh. And this is true of the other big cities in our state as well. But Raleigh has several draws for the blind and vision impaired community. I mentioned the Governor Moorhead School, and whereas it doesn't have as many students as it used to, as a lot of people are now being educated in their home school districts, Governor Moorhead School is still a very viable and thriving entity. Job opportunities with and outside state government are plentiful here as well. Social opportunities as well. So there are a lot of reasons for blind and vision impaired folks to come to Raleigh to live. We get asked sometimes questions like, what are blind people like and what do they like? And I think the point here that I would say is that blind and visually impaired people are as diverse as any other group of people, diverse in abilities, diverse in interest, diverse in personality. It's very difficult to generalize. Another question that we get is, how can we be of assistance to blind and visually impaired people when we're out and might encounter them? And Sandy's going to address that.
If you see, you may be walking along and notice that a visually impaired person, and often people might be afraid to ask them if they might benefit from assistance. And I think that what I would say is, if you see someone, ask them. Don't be afraid to ask them if they need assistance, and they'll let you know if they do need help as they're trying to get across a street or whatever, it appears they need. So that's a good thing to feel free to ask, and then don't assume that they need help or assume that they don't need help. So the only way you can find out is to ask. And one thing about if they need directions, a lot of times people will say, we might stop somebody and, we need to figure out how to go somewhere, and we'll stop and ask for some directions. And people just love to wave their hands and point in different directions, whatever way they think we're supposed to go. And that does not help when you point, because you can't see where they're pointing. So that's just get some funny experiences sometimes. And I'm going to give back to John now for some other things.
Another thing in that regard is, and this is true, I think, for sighted people too. People love to say, oh, you can't miss it. And we always correct them. They say, oh, yes, we can. We've missed it many times. But it's just funny. And we have to laugh when somebody says that to us, because indeed we can. I want to mention just a few challenges that we experience, because we want to try to give you a sense of what the challenges are and what the aids or the helps are as well. And I guess an obvious challenge is heavy traffic, especially on a wide street, like Six Forks Road at North Hills, where we lived for a little over 4 years. There were some audible traffic signals there, but because of all the traffic and the width of the road, we always ask for assistance. North Hills has a security force, and they were very good about helping us across when we would call it and ask for it. We are big fans of the Kane Public Safety Force. Along those lines, I wanted to touch on something that Sean said. For many years, there have been, and I don't think this has come up lately to my knowledge, but from a number of years in the legislature, there were bills proposed to legalize left turn on red in some settings. And that was a subject that the blindness community, as diverse as it is, and as I told you it was, could come together on being in opposition to. And, with that kind of advocacy, those proposed bills never became law to my knowledge. But it's even nicer to hear that there are limits in our city on right turn on red, because as the transportation folks know, that does or can pose a hazard to pedestrians. Another thing, Raleigh is always undergoing construction. And when you're walking along a familiar route and all of a sudden you run into that tape or hopefully there's tape, hopefully you don't run into the hole itself. But, then you have to figure, well, where is my alternate route? Because you may not have had the need to determine alternate routes. You might not know just how big the area set apart is. And so, and additionally, construction noise can also be a challenge. It probably is stating the obvious to say that in terms of listening for traffic, things like that, noise, whether it's construction noise or ambient noise in the environment, like leaf blowers or lawnmowers. Sometimes we think that people wait till we get to a street corner and then start up the lawnmower. So that does pose a challenge sometimes. The other end of the spectrum, though, with the electric vehicles that certainly help the environment, some of those are mighty quiet, and you might not hear them until they're upon you. And there's a particularly potentially difficult thing that we've been encountering the last few years. And Sandy's going to talk about that because it's a pet peeve of hers.
And this is about scooters. People seem to leave them just anywhere in the middle of the sidewalk, turned over, or just anywhere. That's where they get off, I guess. I don't know. But those are very difficult because you can come up on that kind of scooter very quickly, and if you don't see well, and it could be harmful to you if it turns over, or if you get close to it and it does turn over. And then, like I said, there's sometimes people just leave them turned over on the sidewalk. So that's something that is it's a difficult spot that you can be in with that. I'm going to pass it back to John.
And I don't want to suggest that we are anti-scooter, but what we are opposed to. What we do find problematic is people just leaving the scooter where they get off in the middle of the road, or certainly not in a designated scooter drop-off point. And another kind of analogous thing is we are big supporters of bicycles, but bicyclists who don't pay attention to pedestrians, we do sometimes have a problem with that. This, and not so much in Raleigh, I'd have to say. I went to Stanford for graduate school, and bikers ruled there, and they knew it. And there was a time when I was walking along this bike, a biker whizzed by. The problem was, and this, I promise you, it was totally inadvertent. My cane got entangled in their spokes, the spokes of the bicycle, and it brought them to an abrupt and a painful stop. And that was certainly not my intent, but it was the reality. So whether it's a scooter user or a bicycle user, we certainly like it if they can be sensitive to the impact they can have on pedestrians. I've listed some of the challenges, and there are more, but I want to also talk about some of the things that benefit us. And one of the big ones is the audible traffic signals that you find in fairly good numbers downtown and other places too. I mentioned the one that's at Six Forks at North Hills, and that is helpful. We probably didn't have enough courage to rely completely on it, but audible traffic signals are of great help to us. Another thing that we encounter sometimes that are helpful is these little dome things that are on the pavement, but typically they have little domes or bars on them that can give useful directional information. And I participated in a study looking at some of those on the in Chapel Hill near the UNC campus, and those are some things that we don't encounter in large numbers, but they can be very helpful. Also, there are walking apps that you can get for your iPhone or Android phone that can give useful directional information. And one thing that we have kind of alluded to, but we want to talk in a little bit more detail about now is if you encounter a blind and visually impaired person who needs some assistance, certainly you can give verbal directions, not over here or over there, but good directions. And it seems like most people don't want to say, I have no idea. So if you give directions, if you don't know, don't hesitate to say you don't know, because no direction is better than a wrong direction. But sometimes people would like to assist the person from the point A where they are to the point B, the point they're going. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the sighted guide technique that is the preferred technique. A lot of people, if they want to walk with you somewhere, what they want to do is kind of grab your arm, the person to be guided, grab that person's arm and push them along in front of them. That must be instinctive, but it's not helpful. So we're going to talk about the right technique to use, and we're going to try to demonstrate that, and we're going to ask Jana to help us position the camera most propitiously to show this. But I'm going to describe it first. Sandy will be the guide here. She does, as she's indicated, have some vision, and she will be a half a step to a step ahead of me. as perhaps you can see. How are we doing there, Jana?
We see the camera kind of in between the two of you. So if you bring the camera down slightly, yes, perfect. We can see it.
And then what I will do is hold her arm right above the elbow. If you can see that. Now, sometimes people will put a hand on the shoulder if there's a big height difference or if a comfort level. So either position is fine, it's workable. But the importance of her being in front of me is that she comes to steps before I do, or obstacles before I do. I know just from the movement of her arm and her body that if she goes down in a second or so, I'm going to need to go down. Whereas if I'm in front of her, then I would know when to go down, perhaps when I've gone all the way down unintentionally. So having the guide in front rather than behind is the appropriate position, and holding the arm right above the elbow or shoulder, as opposed to holding her hand or holding anything else, is the best position. It gives the most information. I mean, not that she can't say we're coming to some stairs or, you know, give verbal clues, but even if she or some other guy doesn't say we're coming to stairs, when that person goes down, when the guide goes down, I need to be prepared to go down as well. If I could do a commercial, Sandy and I have participated along with some professionals called orientation and mobility specialists in training done by Pinecone. Pinecone, for those of you who might not know, it stands for the Piedmont Council of Traditional Music. We've been fans and members and supporters of that for since the 80s. Pinecone does these trainings in preparation for the big Bluegrass Festival in late September or early October. It trains people to be sighted guides, and then for people who request them for the festival. And we think that is a great initiative. Pinecone has won awards and recognition for doing that. And we have been the beneficiaries of it, not only as guides, but as future friends. In fact, last night we went to an event with a woman who we met when she was one of our guides last year, in fact. And she's a glutton for punishment. She was one of our guides this year as well. But we have made several lasting friendships as a result of that program. And Sandy, would you like to add anything else?
I just want to say a thank you for the opportunity to give some information about helping visually impaired people. And I hope that you have felt that you have learned some new things from this today.
Thank you, guys. That was a terrific and wonderful presentation. So now we are going to move into our questions and answers section. So I will start with some of the questions that we've had put in the chat. And remember, if you could please drop any in the chat, that'll be helpful for us to kind of process some of these. So our first question, it's for Sean with Vision Zero. Is there an intent to add in signage like the image shown on the LTIs that bikes can use pedestrian signals?
Is there an intent to add in signage like the images shown on the LTIs? What is that?
Do you want me to clarify, Mason?
Yeah. To clarify.
Yeah.
Mary.
Hey, Sean, this is Mary.
Hey.
In
Hey.
the picture that you showed, there was a a sign that said, bikes can use the pedestrian signal, they would be in the roadway, not on the sidewalk. But if you go back to the picture, some peer communities have put in signage that indicates the bike that's in the road can also have that timeline to proceed into the intersection.
Yeah, that hasn't been discussed recently. I do see the picture, which I can go ahead and share. It says use PED signal for the bicyclists as they approach the intersection. It's something we can discuss more, and I'd have to run by Rebecca Duffy as well to be sure we follow MUTCD recommendations to put those up with all the correct locations.
Sounds good. Just curious about that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And our next question, Sean. So what makes Vision Zero work is the coalition professionals that work on it. So they're just curious about who else is involved, whether it be health departments, other outside planners, transit departments, advocacy groups, public universities, etc.
Yeah. Let me, I can answer the question. Give me one sec. Yeah, so as part of our SS4A comprehensive safety grant application, we did reach out to a number of stakeholders around the city to provide letters of support, many of whom we believe would be good members to be on our task force. So that did include BPAC, the mayor, chief of police, mayor's committee for persons with disabilities, fire chief, Wake County Public Schools, North Carolina Department of Transportation, state traffic engineer, NC Capital Area, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Highway Patrol, NC State's Institute of Transportation, and then the Highway Safety Research. So we are on that track, and we are reaching out to a number of those public health professionals, and we'll do so even more as stakeholders in the development of the comprehensive safety action plan, which will have quite a bit of community engagement as part of it.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have one more question for you, Sean. What is the timeline on the right on red policies being implemented downtown?
Yeah. Got my notes. I want to tell you wrong. So the LPIs are roughly 100 signals. We updated all the time-based coordinations to reflect the 25. NCDOT completed the signal designs for 100 intersections. We recently codified and signed the speed limits for 25 for the area in the map, and are removing the dual right turns. We're working on a contract for a competitive bid to install all the no right turns on reds. This is quite a bit of work, and we don't have that much capacity in-house, and we hope to have this advertised in the next month, and the work will take about 2 months to complete. So likely by early next year, many, if not all of those should be posted.
Awesome. Thank you. And then again, thank you for your presentation and for being here. And then we have 2 more questions, and for the DeLucas. You can make sure y'all are coming off mute. Awesome. So the first question to whoever, which other of y'all wants to answer, is there some helpful pedestrian infrastructure that maybe you've seen in other cities or other places that you think would be good to be implemented here in Raleigh, or something that maybe the infrastructure is lacking?
Well, the more audible traffic signals, the better, I would say. We have encountered streets here that we thought they would be helpful, but I'd have to say that Raleigh is pretty good of that. If you ask for one, the request is taken seriously, and often results in an audible traffic signal. That's the thing that occurs most to me. Sandy, is there anything you would add?
Yeah, I would just add, yeah, that I think that is a very important thing to have, those. And when there's a new one in a place that it's really needed, it's a really good thing to have done. So that's a major thing, I think.
Awesome, thank you.
I'll add that the city does work with the Moorhead School of the Blind to ensure those APSs are installed at the applicable locations. We get good feedback from them as to where there's regular people with visual disabilities, like where they are regularly walking downtown and around the school. And so we are constantly looking for feedback from users like that as to where there might be locations that we can add. It's expensive to implement. They're not everywhere, but where we find one is needed from those users, we try to get that installed.
And I would add that as a former employee of state government, we certainly realize that fiscal responsibility is and should be a consideration, and can sometimes be a constraint on what's doable or the time frame in which something is doable. So having an infrastructure that is willing to look at things and one that is committed to helping where and when it can be done is very important.
Awesome. And then we have time for one more question for either you or John, either John or Sandy. So when jogging or riding maybe a bike past a blind person, particularly maybe on a shared space like a greenway where people are biking, running on the same kind of paved pathway, is there any other proper etiquette or behavior to make a person more comfortable with somebody running or biking at that speed past that person?
Well, I will tell you that when we hear that, we try to move over to the side and get out of the way, because we don't assume great etiquette on the part of the biker or jogger. But a lot of times somebody will say, coming up on your left, and that any information that the person can provide is helpful. And but we, as I say, we don't expect that everybody will be a considerate jogger or rider. We hope they will, but not everybody is built that way. So we try to take our own evasive action, but any informational cues that they can give would be helpful. But there's always the possibility that Sandy will be saying something, and I know that if she says something, by default, it's important, so I need to be listening.
Awesome.
No, I think I get.
Awesome. So we had one follow-up question from our APS discussion. So I guess, Sean, this one would be for you. What is the typical turnaround time from an APS request to it being implemented in Raleigh?
It's hard to answer. It's likely a few months at a minimum, just to square away like funding locations, and if we need to implement at multiple locations, which would be cheaper than just nickel and diming them one at a time. So as we identify a number of locations downtown, then we would work on updating the signal plans and then getting that infrastructure installed at those intersections.
Awesome. Thank you. So I don't think we have any more questions at this time. So I'm going to pass it on to Jana. But if anyone has any questions, please do follow up an email. It's commute@raleighnc.gov. So Jana, if you want to take us away.
Yes, absolutely. We do have one special treat before we leave, so I hope you guys can stay on for another minute or two. But yeah, if you have any questions for our speakers after the fact, like Mason said, commute@raleighnc.gov is the best way to go. But have a great day. Happy Walktober and happy strolling, of course, during October here. So John, please go ahead, take it away with our special treat that we mentioned.
This doesn't have anything to do with our specific topic, but it has everything to do with our general topic of walking. Patsy Cline, the great country singer, had a hit called Walking After Midnight, and I've rewritten some words. It's walking around Raleigh. I go out walking around our city. Oh, it's mighty pretty. If you take the time to look, I love walking around Raleigh, every cranny and nook. I walk for miles along the greenway, and on a nice day, it touches my soul. I love walking around Raleigh, it can make me whole. I stop and gaze at an oak tree, smell donuts at a bakery, and listen to the people passing by. Being in the fresh air takes away my cares. Go on now and give it a try. And just go walking around Raleigh, and I know that you'll see it's a lovely thing to do. I'll go walking around Raleigh right now with you. I hope that you will go walking around Raleigh real soon. Thank you.